Today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating areas of psychology, learning and conditioning. Every habit you have, every skill you've mastered, every automatic response you make, all of these exist because of learning processes that happen both consciously and unconsciously throughout your life. Learning isn't just about sitting in a classroom or studying from books. It's happening every moment of every day. When you wake up and automatically reach for your phone, when you feel hungry at your usual mealtime, when you get nervous before an exam, or when you smile at a familiar face, all of these behaviors were learned through experience and repetition. The scientific study of learning began in the early 1900s with a Russian physiologist named Ivan Pavlov. Pavlov was actually studying digestion in dogs, but he noticed something unusual. The dogs in his laboratory started salivating not just when they saw food, but also when they heard the footsteps of the person who usually fed them. This observation led to one of the most important discoveries in psychology: classical conditioning. Here's how it works. Imagine you have a dog, and every time you're about to feed the dog, you ring a bell. At first, the dog only salivates when it sees the food. That's a natural, automatic response. But after you repeat this pattern many times, bell, then food, something interesting happens. The dog starts salivating just from hearing the bell, even before seeing any food. The dog has learned to associate the sound of the bell with the arrival of food. This might seem simple, but think about how this applies to your own life. Maybe you feel anxious every time you hear a certain ringtone because it reminds you of stressful work calls. Or perhaps you feel happy when you smell a particular perfume because it reminds you of someone special. These emotional responses were learned through the same process Pavlov discovered. Your brain learned to connect one thing with another. But classical conditioning is just one type of learning. Another crucial type is called operant conditioning, and this was studied extensively by an American psychologist named B.F. Skinner. While classical conditioning is about automatic responses, operant conditioning is about the consequences of our actions. Simply put, we tend to repeat behaviors that lead to positive outcomes, and we tend to avoid behaviors that lead to negative outcomes. Let's say you're trying to build a habit of exercising every morning. Every time you complete your workout, you reward yourself with something pleasant, maybe your favorite coffee or a few minutes of social media. Over time, this positive consequence makes you more likely to continue exercising. That's positive reinforcement in action. On the other hand, if every time you skip your workout, you feel guilty and disappointed in yourself, that negative feeling might motivate you to stick to your routine next time. That's negative reinforcement, removing or avoiding something unpleasant by doing the desired behavior. Skinner showed that the timing and frequency of these consequences mattered tremendously. If you get rewarded every single time you do something, you might become dependent on that reward. But if the rewards come unpredictably, sometimes yes, sometimes no, the behavior becomes much stronger and longer lasting. Think about gambling. People keep playing slot machines partly because they never know when the next win might come. Now, not all learning happens through direct experience. Bandura, another influential psychologist, demonstrated that we also learn by watching others. This is called observational learning or social learning. Children watching their parents, students observing their teachers, employees watching their colleagues. We're constantly picking up new behaviors by seeing what others do and what consequences they experience. Bandura's famous experiments with children and a large inflatable doll showed just how powerful this type of learning can be. When children watched adults behaving aggressively toward the doll, hitting it, shouting at it, the children later displayed similar aggressive behaviors when left alone with the doll. But when children saw adults treating the doll gently, they were much less likely to act aggressively themselves. This has huge implications for how we raise children, how we behave in public, and how we influence others. Every action we take in front of others is potentially a learning opportunity for them, whether we realize it or not. But here's where learning gets even more interesting. Not all learning happens at the conscious level. Much of what we learn occurs without us even realizing it. The route you take to work, the way you hold your phone, the expressions you make when you're thinking, these patterns developed through countless repetitions until they became automatic. Understanding these learning processes gives us tremendous power to change our lives. Want to break a bad habit? Figure out what triggers it and what rewards it provides, then consciously change those patterns. Want to develop a new skill? Set up a system of regular practice with meaningful rewards. Want to help someone else learn? Model the behavior you want to see and provide clear, consistent feedback. Learning also helps explain why change can be so difficult. If you've been doing something the same way for years, your brain has created strong neural pathways, mental shortcuts that make those behaviors feel automatic and natural. Changing requires building new pathways while deliberately avoiding the old ones, which takes time, patience, and conscious effort. This is why psychologists emphasize the importance of environment in shaping behavior. If you want to eat healthier, surround yourself with healthy food options and remove the unhealthy ones. If you want to read more, keep books visible and easily accessible while putting your television remote in a drawer. Small changes in your environment can lead to significant changes in your behavior over time. The principles of learning and conditioning aren't just academic concepts. They're practical tools that can help you understand yourself and others better, build better relationships, develop new skills, and create positive changes in your life. In our next episode, we'll explore memory, how we encode experiences, store information, and retrieve what we've learned. We'll discover why you remember some things clearly while forgetting others completely, and learn strategies to improve your memory and learning efficiency. Thank you for listening, and remember, every day offers new opportunities to learn and grow. Keep paying attention to the patterns in your own behavior, and you'll start to see the fascinating learning processes that shape your daily life.